All right, everybody. My name is Noah Westwind, and I'm here with Derek and Shawn, and I'm doing a Transparent Media Truth and Friends. This is not necessarily a formal roundtable. This is just us just having a discussion on a Tuesday morning on my time, and Derek's probably about mid-afternoon. And I just wanted to bring people together that were kind of familiar with the secured party creditor, the situation of who's your authority and who's in control of this and how do we kind of get out of the system and then just shoot the shit. I really just want to hang out and meet you guys and introduce more people. I was hoping to bring my cousin in and some other friends, but they couldn't join. But as far as Shawn and Derek being here, this is great. So I just want to introduce you to Derek. Was on Crow 777 radio, and he talked about a lot of the things that he had experienced with coming back from being in deployment and having some stuff happened with his estate. And then Shawn has kind of worked his way through status correction, and I think the two of you should be interested in hearing what you have to say and what's going on today and what I'm seeing and what I want to do and follow those footsteps and get out. so so a little bit about my background, just so you guys both know. I had a family member, my stepfather's father was a member of the Bohemian Club. And my interest in that happened back in the late 90s, only because most people said that doesn't exist. And so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out exactly what was going on. And if 2,000 men can meet in secret and then possibly go out into the real world and collude and make all their plans, that felt real to me and very likely to happen. So I have kind of if you can see the little blue books in my background, those are called Annals of the Bohemian Grove. And those start from the late 1800s, 1870s to now. They release them every 10 years. And it's just pure documentation of what happens in their clubs. And it's not exactly detailed about who says what. They have plays go on. They have stories about people that have shown up to talk. And I'm sure there's stuff in there that they've done there at the Grove and then implemented in the real world. And then on top of that, my 9/11 was my wake-up call, and then there have been some other little things here and there. And now that I think my past, I was talking about, like, how is it that I was born into the system that I don't agree with? I didn't consent to it, which is a big one. I didn't sign any contracts. I wasn't privy to anything that was behind those scenes. So when I learned about without prejudice or signing your name by all rights reserved and the UCC stuff, at some point, I don't want to get caught up into saying that this is the bulletproof methodology, because I don't know that, and I'm walking myself through it. But I also feel like there's so much lack of information that left field can come say, like, Kurt was saying on Crow's show the other day, was that Lena's right, Kurt's right, Derek, you're right, but we're all wrong, and we need to follow kind of his path. So I was like, mind blown, So I kind of throw it out to Derek real quick and say, hi, and I'm really happy to see you here, and thank you for coming on. And Shawn, same thing, but just say a little bit about what you're interested in today.
Thanks for having me on. As we talk on Facebook and stuff too, so it's cool that we have our own private chats just about anything, anything going on in society. It's good to have like minds just to throw stuff at, and you get to see all my crazy conspiracy stuff I pass off onto my Facebook followers. So that's mainly my friends and family. They know I'm a complete whack job, so it's okay.
I'm working on that. I'm trying to get those people to understand I'm not crazy, but I'm challenging the system or the status quo. I want to go the opposite direction. If they're going this way, I want to go that way. And if that means I have to take a step sideways because the rip current is going, let's do that. So.
Yeah, I just had my friend over a couple days ago. He's a prison guard. He works at one of the prisons. Yeah, he works at one of the prisons in Michigan. And he served with me down at Fort Custer in the Army. And we were talking about how it seems like a lot of his friends, or a lot of just society, is all going one direction. And then the people that are like us, that are trying to figure out what's going on or what went wrong, are fighting the current, going against it.
Right.
So it's almost like a hostile lifestyle. If if you can't find a way to mend those two to let them coexist between a society that's on a brink of collapse
Yeah.
and freaking us that are actually investigating stuff and trying to educate people on what we found,
Hmm.
whether it be right or wrong, it's still research and it deserves attention.
Well, I've always said, look, if I'm wrong or if I've got anything incorrect, that's the worst it's going to be. I'm just incorrect. But if we're ever right about even just the minutia of something, we really need to look at that and focus on and go forward with it, because that's truth and real. And then I've been saying a lot of times, if you have any contradiction from anybody about what the truth is, there's no truth anymore. And kind of what
Yep.
Crow says, I appreciate what he says. There's uh, enemy of belief is, or oh my
Enemy of
God.
knowing, or belief is the enemy of
Enemy to
knowing.
knowing. Right. So I don't really say I believe this stuff, but my point is I'm willing to look at it and take a time to think about it. And giving that thought process into thinking about it kind of brings it out there and brings it to the forefront, and that's kind
I
of what I
had
was
a
doing.
I had a friend that I was interviewing and did a couple shows with that was a Freemason, and I told him that we were going over an episode of religion, and I said that religion is basically believing. What did I say exactly? Something like believing in something without evidence, or some to that
It
effect.
is an lacking evidence-based belief in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't
And
have firsthand personal knowledge and experience of something, everything else is a belief. You're
that's
just
right.
trusting other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And then
Hmm.
that falls into the scientism and stuff. It's just the the belief in authority. It really is what it comes down to, in my opinion. It really is that simple. And so, as far as religion, I think that that's another mind control system, because you're believing in something that seems to me a little bit more fantasy land than anything. And what's interesting, because my name's Noah, right? Everybody in my middle school and everyone else picked on me and called me Noah's Ark, and I was like, well, first of all, that's the worst insult you can come up with. That's really hilarious. But then I wanted to dive into what's Noah. Then I got into Noah's Ark, and I thought that's kind of a two of every animal. I mean, like, come on, dude. And then
Weird.
you kind of go into the other history. It's like, well, if you go back to the book of Enoch, that's incredible information, but people don't even hear about that. And then
Right.
I it's not that it's not true. It's just that there are more stories back, and all it just goes around and around. But so anyway, I'll just let Shawn say something real quick just to see where he's at, and then
Yeah.
I think he's muted, so we'll just see if he hears me. There he is.
There we go.
Yep.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you, Derek. I got to listen to your 1 hour on Crow 777, so I know more about you than you know about me. And so, yeah, good stuff, really good stuff, because this is all about control, control of our bodies, control of our property, control of our children, and when you've been down any of the rabbit holes and you learn, different lies here or there, you just start to go, okay, after you've been down all the rabbit holes and you get away from the fear and the anger and stuff, you really start looking for solutions. And as far as, truly owning property, truly owning my son as property,
Mhm.
and any of my assets, whether it's vehicles or anything, I'm looking for real solutions and
Automobile.
trying to move. Well, yeah,
Personal
trying to
conveyance,
move
right?
more. Yeah, trying to move more into the private and operating out of the private and versus operating in the public.
Right. And that's something that people don't understand. And I know that seems such a far left field topic to people, that I bring it up and I said, just alone, when can I say no to this stuff? And everybody's like, deer in headlights.
Hmm.
And Mark Passio said something years ago that it's just clicked with me forever, was that if you have the knowledge, then you can use the sacred word of no. So when you know, KNOW, you have the right to use NO. Yeah, I mean, where else can you stand? That's your right to say no.
Yeah.
And I don't know when I consented to have this stuff. So when I challenged my father onto this social security number, birth certificate, all that stuff, when I said it's just a bond, you guys created a bond and you put me out there and they took my name and I'm the surety. They're just like, you know, they don't, that just seems so, it's not magical. It's just word terms and things that have been done behind your back. And
Yeah, I think everybody got stuck in the flow of that's, hey, once you're born, you got to do this. Get your certificate, get your social security number. I had it all before I was even legally allowed to make my own contracts.
right,
You know?
exactly.
Driver's license, everything. I was already a citizen of a state that I didn't know what the hell. I didn't even know it had its own constitution.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, my constitution is leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah.
You know, my constitution would be don't harm anybody else. Let me do whatever I need to do. And I think that that's something that we can relate to. I think that that's our system that we're witnessing as adults, right? And I always look at the words and stuff. Adult. I don't know, adult. I always think of like, you're not smart enough to figure this out. You're adult. Anyway,
Right.
like I just look at like world we live in. Well, I think of world. You're spinning us around in circles.
And you know, all of this is not that old. I mean, we're only at about what in the 30s the Federal Reserve was started,
Right.
and that's about the same time Social Security and all that stuff started. So that's literally like my grandparents, if they were still alive, that would have been their generation.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so we're catching up to what history has done. We just got to make sure it doesn't disappear.
That's the hardest part is that I don't know if anybody's going on the internet nowadays, but if you're people like in my groups and stuff, there are channels and people just getting wiped off the internet. You know,
Yeah.
the censorship is real, whether people
Yeah.
know it or not. And that's the sad part is like, this is like the dark, I don't know how to put this, because it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. People don't look at the internet the way we think people look at the internet. People look at internet as a very myopic Google. You know, myopic is Microsoft search. It's like, that's ridiculous. There are some tools out there, and I don't know if anybody knows this. This is a side topic. You can use these little scanners to say, okay, if I bought a domain name on a server today, what other domain names were registered on that server? And they give you lists, and it's thousands of names every day. There are websites generated constantly. But do you know what the content is on there? Are they searched and indexed? No, that's then the dark web. But those are legitimate websites that are just not crawled, but they could have pertinent information. But then again, you go to a website and everybody calls you crazy because you read it on the internet. Well, a lot of times people copy from books and put it on the internet. So how is that wrong?
Yeah.
You know,
I tell them, I reference government documents from government websites. And they're like, yeah, but you learned it from the internet. It's like, what the fuck's that matter?
Exactly. Right. You know,
Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on your show or not.
I'm going to do it. So I'm
Okay.
letting you do it. And at this point, I'll put a restriction on people if they don't like it because I'm tired of this. You know, we're adults.
Yeah. It's hard not to get worked up. You know, when that whole Pizzagate stuff kicked off and all that, I was so upset that I had to find out on the internet about it because it wasn't coming up in news, and news was playing it different. So I was like, why do I have to go to conspiracy theorists to find out what's actually going on in the world, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing is like when I put the pieces together of, and this is going to sound, I mean, again, I'm crazy. I have a friend of mine from high school that, and I don't want to divulge too much information. It was because I found stuff on my stepfather's computer that realized that this guy's crazy. This guy is demented. This guy's had some issues either happened to him, something happened to him when he was younger, because you don't have the type of stuff I found on your computer as like a kind of a normal person. So, so led me to believe that there was something that happened in his past through his family or experiences that led him down that path of interest. But then when I had a friend of mine years later confirm that his stepfather has a high-ranking kind of position, was able to defer some of the things that he found. Okay, let's take a step back. My friend called the cops on his stepdad. The cops arrested him for a nuisance, or because the stepfather said, he's causing problems, get him out of here. But it was the cop and the stepfather that knew each other. So because of this group thing, there's some background stuff going on. And I don't care if you have a lot of money, but if you have influence and you know people and you name names and you have those connections, you can get away with murder. And that's what I feel like is happening. So
have you ever looked into the Crowley family?
A little bit.
In Minnesota?
Oh, no, not at all.
Oh, man, dude. He's the one that made the Gray State trailer.
Oh,
He's about to make the movie.
So you have to talk to my buddy. You have to talk to my buddy, Greg Fernandez Jr. on Facebook. This
Yeah,
guy
I've talked to him. I went on their show.
No way. Okay,
I
he's a
went on
buddy
their
of
show and
mine.
I talked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He and I have
Oh,
been
yeah.
friends for years. I happened to meet him through another guy named Manny Trev. The guy's been off Facebook for years, but he was outside of protesting Bohemian Grove before I knew they were protesting.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool.
He was on the show with Catherine Michelle, I believe it is.
I'm not sure of her either, but I know
she's like the retired EMT that was investigating how the detectives deduced what happened, and it didn't make any sense, right?
That's crazy, yeah.
And then when I looked into his work, his trailer and all that, I tried letting them know, dude, he foresaw everything, and he was blaming the Freemasons.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
But,
I mean, so that's the thing is these rabbit holes lead to people, lead to information, and lead to very real things.
mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that the Gray State stuff is documenting a hit on somebody, but he had something that he was producing that was very important. And I think that there was a tipping point that we see reality happening, but this fiction and this other stuff is connected to the point where it's real, but they're trying to make it like a crazy story. I muted you, Shawn, so you can hear us. But it's just I can't believe you talked to him. That's great because the documentary videos that they made are fantastic. I mean,
and when they were saying, because he was an Iraq War veteran, they said, "Oh, he just instantly flipped over to Islam and decided that would be a great religion and murder his family." Okay.
Yeah. That. Oh man, this is what I thought you'd like this today.
Nice.
Not flipped.
I have cop friends, but I talk to them about my friends that are cops are just as much into conspiracy shit as me. So
that's funny because I'm trying to get my girlfriend's friend's husband to kind of hear me out, and I'm kind of on the Mark Passio side. Fuck everybody that's in police. They're fucking problem. Because honestly, if you can't think for yourself and know what's moral and know what you're doing is immoral, I can't do this. But I'm trying to figure out, in a sense, what's going on behind the scenes. And then I had my brother-in-law was trying to be a cop in Stockton and other places, and I can tell by his demeanor it had changed a little bit. But I want to know what's happening. What are they telling him? Like, okay, for instance, I called every business around me about the mask law. Guess what? The sheriff department had to defer me to the health department because they don't have a law that they can cite. The health department said they, quote unquote, have a partnership with the sheriff department to enforce government code 8665 that just says that anybody willfully or knowingly disobeys an order. Well, it starts off with any person. And if you and I and Shawn know, a person represents a corporation. Right. So if they don't say a legal term of natural person is responsible for this policy, this order, or whatever, then it's referring to a corporation. And so that's where Shawn is trying to become that owner of that person in a way. So
I know that the Freemasons of Police, the FOP.
Well, look at their stars, right? And the checkerboards, all that stuff.
They got the upside down pentagram, just like Satanists.
So so it's like, how do you control these?
They were founded in 1915. So
it's crazy. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not even 105 years, but how did I wish? These are the types of things I'd known. I had actually met my great grandfather when I was a child. So the things that I wish I had known from him, he probably lived prior to the collapse of the Federal Reserve or the Great Depression and all that stuff, and trying to understand if he knew anything about what had happened. My grandfather on my dad's side, he was in World War II, and he spent the last few years of his life in a assisted living home, and he was able to do research. And he said, if I had known now what I knew then, I would have never enlisted. And to me, that was a huge thing because he changed his mind. But since we had so much military in our background that he just felt that was a necessary thing, but also because of a bombing, he had to go and do the right thing that was patriotic. But he says IBM gave Hitler the cars. Hugo Boss made the uniforms. Kodak made the cameras. Adidas made the boots. Ford, got him vehicle. It's just like the collusion behind the scenes, and then Prescott Bush, Coke, right?
Fago, I think, came from Germany. Fago. No, not Fago. The orange one that
Oh, Fanta.
Fanta.
No, or Fanta,
Yep.
or the rocket ship one. What's that one? Doesn't matter. Anyway, so yeah, that's like kind of thing. Like my family's a family member had taken the time to do the research or
Mm-hmm.
search for himself. I
Yeah.
don't like the term research because I didn't do the searching in the first place, so I can't research something. I don't know. It's kind of a weird topic. So he spent the time searching for it, and so he found that it was these people helped create the enemy over here that he went to fight for. That was really no reason to do that.
Mm-hmm. Zionism, bro.
Yeah.
It was all Zionism. And I found out recently that, what I've found out was that Hitler was rounding up Jews and then concentrating them and shipping them down to Palestine. And they was trying to make Israel greater to get more Jews back down there. And I found out Napoleon did that when he was alive too. He went and got all the Jews from North Africa and rounded them up and sent them up to what was Acre back then. That's old Jerusalem.
Weird.
So this Zionism plot's been going on for a long time.
And that's hard for people to wrap around, their head around. It's an invisible boogeyman, right?
Yeah.
And then you hear quotes of people saying that if the news had actually reported on any of this stuff, we would have been done a long time ago. And then you have George Bush saying if anybody caught wind of what we do, we'd be up in pitchforks and torches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like those quotes exist, and yet we're crazy.
Yeah.
So
the Knights, what I found out is Knights Templar, Freemasons, and Jesuits all have the same plot. It's Zionism.
Right.
It's to get everything concentrated there, and then that will be the new superpower, one world order.
Wow. All right. Well, as if it's not already there. I mean, we live in a police state now, and
right.
Yeah. However that gets enforced, yeah. So yeah, I don't want to keep
Club of Rome is probably in there too.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but yeah, what Derek said jives with everything I've seen.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, how do we get together in the future to, in a sense, do what Shawn's doing and start the process, and then add an addendum to what you're doing, Derek, and say, this is the chunk you're going to start with. Here's the thing that Derek has applied. Here's what Kurt's kind of said. Here's what Dean Clifford has done, and then. As cool as it sounds to buy like 200 acres and, get everybody to live on their corner and create our own society at some point. When I heard Ken's show, that's kind of what they were doing. Is like, that's kind of what we have to do. And we have to establish ourselves that we're here in peace. We're not here for war. We're here for peace.
Yeah.
And since we've lived in martial law, we've lived in all this state of whatever for almost a century now or more. There's got to be a way to turn this around peacefully. There's got to be a way to do this with paperwork, because if the paper is going to work, it's got to work for us instead of actually doing anything. And when
basically we're just undoing the steps that are turning America into a communist state. This is all Marxism. This is all part of the whole Zionism plot is to break every country down. Russia fell, China fell. And it took literally a revolution, and it's usually controlled by a Jewish type of instigation. I would say the Bolsheviks in Russia and all that.
Russian, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and here you can see how much the Jewish community has a good hold on the media. They have a good hold on our education system. You don't get to know much about them. Healthcare, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's trying to break America down. America's hanging on by a thread, and we're kind of a piece of that last bastion, that has to be like, hey, well, this happened over there. Let's not let it happen here. And it's already happened. And, when I talk about property taxes, that is one of the planks of Marxism, is to get rid of private property.
Private property, right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some stupid things that I saw back in Florida was, why don't people have fences around their homes? I mean, don't you want your own private property? Or is it just everybody's sharing that land? And it just felt weird to me that you don't have a fence up. And I know that a fence seems a little, how do I say, kind of like, your elite little spot, a barrier. Yeah, but that's, I mean, in a sense, you kind of need that, right? And I've found that.
That's privacy. That's privacy.
That's right. That's exactly right. you know, and if you're in the public and you're running around naked, well, I can do that behind my fence, you know.
Yeah.
But who's to stop me there? That's the thing, is once those fences are gone, anybody can stop you from doing anything, and that's the
And
hardest
it's
part.
like, when you drive by places and they have the private property sign, no trespass. It's like, okay, tell that to your tax assessor,
Oh
or
yeah,
the
they'll
or
walk
the
right
guy
on
that
your
has to
property.
read
Yeah.
your gauges for the gas and the water. Good luck.
Well, hey, with the smart meters, there are no more meter
Right.
readers anymore, because now they radiate the fuck out of you after just.
Yeah.
It's sad because they're all on the side of our apartment complex over here, and the people don't know what's on the other side of their wall, and that's not consented to.
Yeah, they
So
tried to install Water One on mine inside my house. They said they'd have to do it in the basement. I'm like, hell no.
no way, nope.
And I guess they already changed the electric one on the outside. I'm like, whatever, I'll block the radiation from that one, but you're not putting one inside my house.
No, not at all.
And they ended up charging me more money because I refused it.
That's what they're telling me. I have to pay a
Yeah.
$75 fee for whatever per month, or one-time fee, just because they need pay the meter reader to come back. That's what their job was in the first place. Now, now not only are you doing like self-checkout, you're removing those people's
I
jobs.
didn't ask for it.
I didn't ask for it either.
Mhm.
And that's the other thing, is like, I'm hoping what Shawn's doing kind of gives us the in to say no, put our foot down and say, this is in private capacity. You can't enter this. You can't do this to me. And then with
Right.
the right wording, because I'm not a res, right? I'm not a thing in a place. I'm a human being, a man, you know, living in
Mhm.
my domicile. Unfortunately, it's rented by someone, or rented to someone else who, and I look at the term landlord.
Yeah.
I mean, like, am I free? No, I feel like an indentured servant to someone else.
That's feudalism. That's when
Right.
they had landlords, was feudalism. Yeah.
Right. I'm on a semi-plantation called the state of California, paying my property taxes to I'm an indentured servant to the state.
Hmm.
And I mean, that's my observation. Simple.
Yeah.
As soon as I can own that land and we can walk away from it and say, I can do whatever I want,
Right.
I feel more free, more available to do the things that I need to do. But if they can, like you said, Derek, they stomp on your land, they come in, to me, that's an act of aggression.
Yep.
That's beyond, that's almost warlike, because you're invading my
Mhm.
territory.
Yeah.
And what Ken said was
How
interesting.
about
Go ahead.
how about all the building codes and stuff? So if you want to buy a piece of property, yeah, you want to keep the sanitation good, and you want to make sure you have good water and stuff, right? But when you actually start building a home, you got to do all these codes and regulations, and every city's different. Every state's a little bit different. They all go by universal building code or something, right? But hey, that's, you bought that property. You should be able to do what you want on that property, as long as you're not harming anybody. And that kind of goes back to common law.
Yeah.
And by doing stuff that Derek's doing and correcting your status and being able to actually do a land patent, an original land patent on your property, that's true freedom right there. The
Yeah,
rest
exactly.
is not freedom. Yeah.
No, I call it free dumb. And I don't know if that's a play on words, but it's literally like
Yeah.
free dumb. You can be free to be dumb all you want and
Mhm.
ignorant.
Yeah.
And I just,
Yeah.
I asked somebody the other day, I was like, hey, why is the Statue of Liberty on an island facing inward? It's watching over its prison planet right here, or this
Mhm.
land that it's watching over. It's not there to look out and bring people in. It's looking over us,
Yeah.
and that's kind of a little out there, but at the same time, like the property. So I had actually, back in high school, I had the same kind of thing happen to an ex-girlfriend's parents. They want to added just an extra little room, which was just the underside of the house. They want to add another room. They had to go through hoops to get zoning code things just because it increased the square footage on the land. Like, what? Who cares?
And then their taxes went up.
Oh yeah. Well, I think in the end they just did it
Yeah, it's all
anyway and
about
said fuck them all and put a secret wall, and that was their pool room, but nobody knew. But I mean, again, who's to say that government official, that government entity has any right to say that that's necessary or not necessary or not allowed? So
Right.
I knew back then in the 90s that was just like a wake-up call. Who has control of that? Well,
Mhm.
if you sign the deed and you have a title, to me now I'm finding out that that's not even possession. Really,
Right.
you're just the caretaker, and that's how the parents
Mhm.
are now, that I'm understanding. And when I went back and I looked at my birth certificate and I understood that my mother put her maiden name and my dad put his name on there, they had a bastard child. which then became the property of the state. Interesting thing that I thought of was because if you put my mom put my dad's name on there, my assumption that would be clearly they got married. This is the two entities that came together in an agreement that this is the marriage, and then the byproduct is me. But if they kind of put that like out there that, hey, I'm this person and this individual, and then we didn't agree and we don't have the same name, then yeah, who am I? I'm just a property of the state now because you can't take care of it because you're a bastard,
Yeah, or the fact that that is a little financial instrument made from a financial company. I mentioned that on your show. I looked it up.
Oh,
the
yeah.
American Banknote Company. I'm like, why the hell is our birth certificate coming from the same place that makes credit cards?
Well, if Shawn's done some of the paperwork, I'm thinking that's actually like a bonded paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, I just received in the mail the other day 6 long form birth certificates, and yeah, it is on bond paper. Yep. And
I meant to grab mine before the show just to kind of show you. Yeah, that paper's got some interesting information on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's been some people that have matched up the numbers on the Social Security card and the birth certificate for the Treasury account. However, when you actually try to take money out of your account with the Treasury, and which is your birth account, you can't do that.
That's what I've been hearing. Yeah, I've been hearing stories that people are absolutely getting hammered on that and arrested for.
That's the except for value stuff.
No. Nope. It's a gentleman named Randall Bean and Heather Ann Tucci. And Randall Bean actually transferred money from the Treasury account by using those numbers and stuff. Like when people were putting their numbers into the Fidelity and seeing how much they were worth.
Yeah.
So I believe his name's Randall Bean,
We can look it up later.
So don't hold me to any of this because I don't want to be talking bad about him. But he transferred funds into his USAA bank account, and from what I understood, he went down and bought a big old RV with like $500,000.
Yes, I remember that story. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
And then they came in, and then he had a SWAT team around him and stuff, and they took his RV, and I believe he's still in jail. And so so the A4V is accepted for value. Originally, it's called accepted in honor or accepted for honor. And basically what you're doing is you're not disputing. So anytime you dispute or argue, that's for court.
And you're
Everything's
in
for
dishonor,
court or
right?
for
You're
a jury.
in dishonor.
Yep.
And then when you call the court your honor, you're proving that you're in dishonor. And all the acceptance for value is saying that, yeah, I agree to all the terms and conditions in here unless I rebut them, right? And you say, look, I'll accept them all unless you meet these terms or you pay me, or what's the other one? Like you just agree to set it off. This is where I want to learn. This is why I'm bringing you in here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Setting your own terms.
In a basic sense, it's accepting for value, and as the authorized representative, you're doing a banker's acceptance, and you're doing a banker's acceptance on the bill, on the tax bill, on the electric bill, on the car bill, whatever.
Right? Is what I heard. There's statements which are presentments, right? So they're presenting you with something that is what I've tried to understand on the statements and bills. If you get a bill, I would assume that it's a negative value. You owe them money, but you see a lot of positive numbers on this stuff. And so what I heard was that they are just presentments. They give you this thing and you say, okay, well, I accept that, but this is where I fall short. And this is why I want to learn all this stuff, is that you'll pay it, but you either have to agree to other terms and conditions that I set, or you want to discharge it or set it off because something has to always add to zero. Is that correct?
There's so many to House Resolution 192 of 1933. And basically when they took away the gold and started using our birth certificates as the surety on the national debt. So 1913 happened, and all currency formed into existence was debt.
Debt, right.
And you can't pay debt with a promissory note, because a promissory note
is debt,
or a Federal Reserve note is a promise to pay.
Yeah.
And so gold and silver is not considered money anymore. So the
Is that
only
Nixon's fault?
remedy
Was that Nixon's fault?
to
Right?
no, Nixon brought the gold standard back
Oh.
so that
No,
you could
he got rid of it.
No, he got rid of it. I thought
He got rid of it.
Yeah.
but you could own gold after that.
JFK tried to force the Federal Reserve to let go of silver and let the U.S. Treasury mint silver, but 6 months later, he got killed.
Yeah. Okay, so go back, Shawn.
If you ask me, that's the reason JFK is gone. That's the main reason, because he was messing with the bankers, and when you mess with the revenue stream, be ready for it. Yeah,
I understand. Yeah, I totally understand.
So you're doing a banker's acceptance because you've put yourself in a status of a creditor and an authorized representative of the all caps name and an authorized representative of that exemption ID number. Exemption ID number being the Social Security number.
So that would be the EIN. Sorry, that would be the EIN number. Is that what it's called?
Well, your Social Security number acts as an EIN number.
Yeah.
On
without
your
the dashes,
person.
right? Right.
Yeah, correct. And I learned this in Dissolve Your Debt. Dissolve Your Debt. He has a PDF that you can buy, and he has a little audio. And he's been on April or June show. So there's like an hour episode with April or June. Yeah. And then
Derek,
April
if you don't have
June,
it, I have that PDF. I'll send it to you later. But go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. And then secure. So my position right now is doing the secure party creditor, and then also state citizen national passport.
Yep.
And through copper moonshine stills, that process.
Got it.
And then
go ahead. Sorry.
And then basically, whatever money I earn through my labor goes to my prosperity. That's what I'm going for. Yep. Right now, my money and my labor, from my labor, goes to pay stuff that shouldn't be paid.
Oh, dude, I hear you, man. The other day, I was like, if I want to pay my rent and I'm making X amount of money, I look at my gross income. Like you're showing me two different values. I'm literally getting taken for almost over half of my income per month. It's just insane.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's just make a simple number. If I'm making $10,000 a month, I'm getting $4,000. That's insane. Yeah. That's insane. And that's thanks to fucking California. And they're telling me that they want to raise the income tax to 16.8% plus the federal income tax. Yeah. Like, holy. And no wonder people are leaving this place. But then I'm hoping with kind of like what Shawn's doing is that if there's a way to look, I'll pay taxes if it's necessary. And like Derek, you said, I'll pay the things that are required, but I don't want to pay for school.
If it was voluntary.
Yeah,
if it was voluntary.
Right. Yeah.
It's forced. It's coercion. Yeah.
Well, I've seen, this is why I'm shooting the shit. I've seen a stupid show on a documentary of a tribe in the Amazon. When it was time to work, all the men got together and they made the roads. They swept the pathways. It wasn't a question. Everybody just got together and they joined up to do it, and that was the work for today. Look, I may not be a hard laborer, but if somebody wants to go put some concrete down or put some asphalt on the road, and today's my day to join them, that's awesome. Like, I think that's freaking cool. But to take the money from me, go to a corporation that's supposed to manage all these people that build the roads. Yeah, I get the safety concerns, all this stuff, they regulate all this thing. But my point is like, I'm more than happy to go donate my time to grow gardens for the community. Yeah. That's something my father started back in the late 80s, was a community garden. But you know how many hoops he had to jump through with the city and the state to just apply that? You should be able to say, this plot of land in the back of my apartment complex, if I can get the landlord to sign off, again, lord of the land there, can get permission, I should be able to grow anything I want with the rest of the apartment complex. And that's the thing is, I'm ready to start doing, what's the term?
Homesteading.
No, oh, dude, I don't even get me started on that. I would love to just start dropping seeds everywhere. You know what I mean? Just like rogue farming, just start putting seeds in all sorts of different places. But, they spray poisons on this stuff. They pick the weeds out. Things probably wouldn't survive. Right. But it's like that kind of mentality that why aren't fruit trees everywhere? Well, someone would slip and
Yeah.
fall on a seed or something, and they'd sue the city for not cleaning it up. Like, oh god, you'd have free food
Yeah.
versus suing someone for slipping on it. Can you be an adult and pay attention to what you're walking around? Get off your cell phone and pay attention.
Yeah.
So I just want us to live in a better place. And I know, Shawn, you have children, so it makes it hard. Or property, right? I heard something the other day I meant to bring up with you, Shawn, was that I heard something in a TV show that said the apple falls from the tree is still the tree's apple, or it's their possession. It's the tree's apple. So your child is your possession. That is it belongs to you.
Yep. Yeah.
And so you have every right to not give them shots, not get the birth certificate. And then I hear from Ken's show yesterday that is if you did have the birth certificate, the birth certificate, but then you have the marriage license, and you didn't give your child the marriage license, or oh god, this is me fumbling. Oh, the birth certificate. You have stolen property.
It's all contract law too. Contract. So when you get into a marriage license, you're entering into a contract third party with the state.
Yeah, that's
so
you and I were going over that because you told me you were, and I don't want to give out your personal business, but you were telling me about that, and I understand that you said you wish you'd known about the status correction before the marriage license. Something like that, right?
Yeah. Back in the old day, they used to record the births in the family Bible, and they used to record the marriages in the family Bible.
Law. Yeah, common law.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, did you know that California won't recognize common law marriage even if you've been together for 7 years? And
Same
why
in
7?
Michigan.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think they're redefining common law there. I really think that. Yeah. And they're using it as common law as federal citizens.
Well, you want to hear something very interesting too? I heard a story back in the day about a gentleman who became a severe alcoholic, became homeless, and he literally stopped using his straw man or his identity for 7 years or more, just a little over 7 years. Guess what? He was legally dead. He didn't exist to the state anymore. He didn't exist to anybody. They gave him a death certificate. He could prove he's alive. He was there, but he couldn't use his social security number. His driver's license was invalid. And I thought, he's the freest fucker I've ever met, and he doesn't even know it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was just
think about it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Too. Think about it when the slaves got emancipated, right? The emancipation didn't free them, but
it grouped everybody together. Yeah.
When slavery, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, then all those black people were free from government. They were not citizens. Right. They literally didn't have to own. They were more powerful than white people at that point.
Right.
But then they dove right into the same system that we were in, and they became citizens to get all the benefits, and now they're fucked just like we are.
Yeah, benefits and privileges. And I read that too. And I said, I don't necessarily think everything that they're doing is a benefit. And if it's a privilege, then they can tax it, right? They can take the money that they need to support it or whatever. And then if I don't want to use it, I don't get to use that benefit or that privilege. So
yeah. So one thing I wanted to add to you, I don't know if I mentioned it before. I'm right now in the middle of a driving without a license case.
Yeah, you brought that up earlier, and I was interested to share that with Shawn, just so that he kind of knows. And then the rest of us, or anybody out there that listens, is just if they're interested in how that works. How is it that I can get? Well, first of all, Derek, this is my take on it. Not to cut you off. It's just that, look, if I leave my home, my domicile, wherever I hate residing. If I can walk out and go to the store freely, I can get on my bicycle and do the same thing. But the moment I get in that motorized vehicle, I need a permission slip, and that blew my mind. And then that, to me, how free are we? Well, you're free enough to go here by foot. It's weird, you know? And then as soon as you magically get into this metal box, that a driver's license is all of a sudden going to make everybody safer. That blew my mind, right? My family would say, oh, it's going to be crazy chaos and anarchy if nobody has a driver's license. I'm like, have you seen the way people drive with a driver's license? It won't change a damn thing. So kind of go ahead, Derek. I was just saying that it doesn't logically make sense to me that you need a permission slip just for driving. And we're not doing commercial work. I'm not an Uber driver, right? So that slippery slope into all that if people don't understand. So
So
I'll let you
there's a
kind of go with it.
whole bulk of stuff that goes with this. For one, owning a vehicle, right? You bought it, you paid for it, your sales receipt, that is a contract, a sales contract. That property is yours.
Yes.
You can take a car in and out of a state's jurisdiction by the registration. I can unregister my property from
I've
the
seen
state
that.
of Michigan, move it somewhere else, right?
Okay. Yep.
So then the state of Michigan could no longer tax me for the use of that vehicle. So if I have the right to unregister it, I have a higher title to my vehicle than I do my house.
Wow. Okay. That's
So that's
fascinating.
one thing.
Because I know you can get paperwork to actually turn in the driver's license. I've looked
Yep,
for it.
that's in my and it's also on a savings bond looking certificate is your title to your vehicle,
That's right.
just like your
The
birth
original.
certificate.
The
And,
original title comes from the manufacturer, and
the
then
MCO,
the DMV,
right?
yeah, the MCO, the
Mhm.
manufacturer certificate of origin. So if you can actually have that manufacturer certificate of origin, which only comes with new vehicles now, but if you can get that manufacturer certificate of origin, you're gold. You're gold. You have it.
And then Shawn, if you have to go at any point, just let us know, and then I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
But then yeah, keep going, Derek. That's fascinating.
Yeah, so also I just recently looked up too. I'd heard this before, but I wanted to see it from the letter of the law, basically. The UCC does state that vehicles are consumer goods.
Your recreational vehicle or your recreational conveyance or your whatever they wanted to call it. And then as far as I looked into the vehicle code, any reference to conveyance, traffic, transfer, whether it says vehicle, motor vehicle, motorized vehicle, or vehicle are all the same thing. And
Right.
so when a cop pulls you over and says, have you've been driving, let me see the registration for the vehicle, all that stuff, he's just using commercial terms.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is that kind of what I think that's what I deduce a little bit,
So
right?
there's what we don't want to get mixed up is definitions from different law jurisdictions, right?
Okay,
A lot of
sure.
people are
Yeah.
mixing the federal with the state. The state doesn't recognize driver as being a definition for commercial use.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The federal government does consider the term driver for commercial use. So federal government does not force you to register your equipment. It doesn't force you to have a license to operate your private property.
Right.
The way they define driver is somebody doing commercial work, and even that has to be a vehicle with a certain amount of weight. So even if you just had like your own pickup with a small trailer you're hauling for your own business, guess what? That's still good for federal law. You don't have to register. So now there's also a way to make your property yours. How do I say this? To get it into the UCC like that, from what I saw, is you have to make like a notarized document saying, I'm using this property as mine for my own personal use. I don't need restrictions from the government on it.
Right.
Get that notarized, and get it notarized by military posts, because they have federal notaries.
Now you mentioned that we went back and forth. If I have access to an Air Force base or something, then you said use those. That's a good information. Yeah.
Federal notaries will trump those state ones, so you don't have to say by permission of the state government, I took a sworn oath with them. Like, no, I got the federal government did it for me, not you guys.
Yeah, right.
So that's something.
Oh, Derek, let me interrupt real quick. Would you want to take those notarized copies and have them filed in the court record under miscellaneous, especially
Sure.
in the county that you're living and operating in a lot?
You can. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That makes sense because it's a public notice that if anybody.
But wait.
Oh yeah.
Before you register something into your county register, I saw one of Michigan state law books saying registration creates jurisdiction.
Oh yeah.
So if you register something into them, they now have power to exercise over it.
Regulate.
I told that
tax.
to Crow about the trusts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you technically don't want to register anything to them. So just let them, if there's public notice, it can be put on public record in the court itself.
I see.
And that way, they don't necessarily get jurisdiction over it.
Thanks for that.
The other thing is, I looked up driving itself, right? The act of driving. I'm sorry, the use of the roads.
Yep.
Because cops will always say, it's a privilege to drive. Those roads belong to the state. You know, that's all bullshit.
Absolutely.
The government belongs to the people who pay for the government. Whatever the government does with the money is property of the government. That's why it's called public.
Public, right.
All public. It's owned by us. So, and even if you don't pay the taxes for the roads, you can still fucking use them.
Well, they've been there, right? That's what they were created for, us to use.
Tourism. We have, you know, people coming in from different states driving on our roads. That's fine, you know. And is it safe to walk down a road, say a highway, with semis going 70 miles per hour? Absolutely not. Is it safe to ride a bike down a fucking highway going 70 miles per hour? No.
Nope.
Driving is the safest way to get down the highway, and it's your right to use those roads to get in and out of the states. And I'm just saying state as a physical place, not as a government right now.
Territory or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that is the safest way and means to get in and out of the state. That is actually said in the Articles of Confederation that then got put into the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. So when cops try to say, don't be quoting the Articles of Confederation, that doesn't exist. Like, motherfucker, if you learn law, that shit got put into the U.S. Constitution.
Yep.
We have the right to travel. That is a real thing.
Well, then, to me, that's the pursuit of happiness. To be able to go freely here and there, and hindering me in that pursuit of happiness violates my right. And it's a slippery slope from there. And I've also...
How are you going to get out of the state? Are you going to walk through somebody's yard? That's
you're trespassing. Private property. Hey, yeah.
Or should I take the roads that we already had paid built that can get me in and out of there safely? You know, that's the common sense thing to use. So don't tell me that I could use my vehicle as long as it's not on the roads. Am I going to drive through everybody's fucking yard?
Yeah.
Come on. These are all my arguments for in the court. And now I looked up, you know, Rome built roads to get their military from point A to point B quickly.
Right.
So the number one purpose of roads is to get our military to wherever they need to defend the country quickly.
That's why all bridges have a height value and a minimum height, because they need to be able to get all their military rockets and other things underneath bridges. Yeah. So that isn't just an arbitrary number. No, that is to allow the military to freely move about in our country and ourselves. And just like Ken said, or someone else said the other day, I think it was Kurt Kallenbach when I heard him. He says, you dig a hole today, that hole's there tomorrow. It's already owned. It's there. So the roads are there. They're already made. And the only people that should be paying the taxes to fix them are the people that are literally, truly doing commerce. Because their large vehicles, like you said, at a weight limit are going to do some damage.
Right.
That's it. And so the moment we acquiesce and say, yeah, I'm driving today, and here's my insurance bond, that shows that you're part of the commercial property and doing commerce, and you've literally caved into that system. But it's hard to sit there on the side of the road and say, nope, I'm not, because I don't want to get shot.
Yeah.
And I don't care what color or skin you are, you're probably going to get fucked up by the cops just because you, refuse to get out of the car for no reason due to safety issues where you're in a car that has hidden compartments.
And I'll explain my interaction with the police when I got pulled over. The real reason why I got pulled over is because one of my headlights was out. Now my headlight costs $200 for one bulb.
Jesus.
So I was like, dude, I can't afford to do it right now. But I had my fog lights on. There's 3 lights on my front of my vehicle, you know.
Right.
But he wrote the ticket anyways. And then when I told him I didn't have a driver's license, I handed him my passport ID, which is a federal ID.
Yep.
So I could just prove I am a U.S. citizen. I do have those rights.
Yep.
You know. And he's like, well, why don't you have a driver's license? And I just said, I no longer want services from the state of Michigan.
Right.
I'm done with it.
Yeah, my contract's over, right? I severed my contract.
Okay. You know, went back to the squad car, had to figure out how to type up a ticket for me and did that. But, you know, I'm pretty cool with the cops. You know, I handed them the insurance, the registration was still under my mom's name. She still has it registered, but
Sure. Yeah.
you know, I'm playing that game for now until my truck's back on the road. It's not going to have any plates on it.
Right. Right.
But yeah. So I was cool to the cop. He was cool with us. He let me. I had to park the car and then have my mom come meet me, and then we moved the cars where they needed to be.
Yep.
Just for that. I
Yep,
still
sure.
drive it right now. I don't
Yeah.
give a fuck.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I totally understand. I know where you're coming from. Yeah.
so these cops, they think like this is my jurisdiction. This gives me the right to write the ticket.
Mhm.
I even interviewed one of my cop buddies, and he said that, and I was like, how do you know that that's state of Michigan's territory or jurisdiction? Isn't the federal government out there too? Huh? What about the UCMJ? That's military. You're swimming around in that jurisdiction too. Do those laws apply to you? No.
Mm-mm.
You don't have a contract with it. I did. I could have committed something that was bad for the U.S. Army right on the road, and UCMJ would pound my ass.
Wow.
Worse than federal government.
Right. Yeah.
So
Good to know.
they got to get off that assumption of jurisdiction thing. That's my main battle. So I have filled out my appearance form, like I told Don Crow.
Mhm.
Let them know you're there by special appearance.
Mhm.
And that means that you're immediately challenging jurisdiction. You're not just appearing because they summoned you and they're the authority.
Yeah,
Nope,
they summoned
I'm
a
here on
dead
my own
entity.
volition.
I always
Yeah.
keep talking. What is a summons? And people summon or raise the dead.
Right.
Why did a judge have you stand up before him?
And he
people
dresses
go,
like a wizard
I
anyways,
don't know.
right? It's
Yeah, exactly.
conjuring you up.
Yeah. I mean, all I see is this, right? He's got the marionette strings tied to you, and you all just went, oh. And the next thing you know, he's got control. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just when I went to court for speeding tickets in the past, I didn't think anything of it. And I'm like, I'm thinking in the back of my head, fuck this asshole. I'm not gonna rise for you.
Mhm.
You know, what control did that give you? And then when I
Right.
heard stories of people saying, stay outside the court until they call your name. If you come in as a flesh and blood human being or man because you didn't rise, it's a crazy story. I've heard some judges have run off the bench or off their.
Yeah, I have seen that happen sometimes. I don't play that game because I try to keep the court calm.
Calm, right? Yeah, right.
Let me
Yeah.
just put the paperwork in. You're gonna lose the fight. I don't have to be a nuisance,
Yeah. Well, I never wanted to be the point where you challenge it,
Right.
and a lot of people come to the point where that moment you start that argument and your wording slips, then the contempt of court becomes an issue.
Mhm.
And I don't think that dishonoring someone is a good thing, but that's kind of what happens in my opinion, is that dishonor throws a lot of contention in there, and they're not going to sit there and argue with that. So the ideal situation is to just kind of make an example of you and shut you up. And what happens is then that makes other people shut up because, oh shit, if I said like,
You can
no.
you can put that in your appearance form too. I've done it before. I've said, look, if I cross the bar, if I raise when I'm just giving customs and courtesies, but I'm not surrendering authority.
That's
You
a
can
great
put
one.
that in your appearance letter if
Right.
you want.
Yeah, and then
And,
Shawn, I don't know if you have anything like that in your process, or if there's something you attach to your driver's license or not. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
So I'm doing a little bit different spin on it. My intuition and my gut instinct says that, just don't run any plates at all.
Mhm.
However, I live in an urban area. I'm in Santa Cruz, California, and there's highway patrol and cops all over. And I just don't feel like trying to educate the police.
Yeah, right.
The police understand statutes, codes, and regulations and
Policies.
ordinances,
Yeah, right.
but they don't understand anything of true law. They understand legalese
Or
and
morality.
so the spin yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the spin I'm doing on it is I'm putting my assets, the car, and I have an RV, putting the car and the RV into a 508c1a.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, 508c1a. Yep, and then I control that. I'm the managing executive director, and then from there I'll be registering those into South Dakota, and I don't need a driver's license in South Dakota as a traveler. South Dakota is the one state that you can register and you don't have to have a driver's license. It's not known. It's not even on their website anymore. And then registered those in South Dakota. So I do have plates on them. They're not in my name. And I'll be driving them for my faith-based organization doing personal business. And I'll be running on a passport and an international driver's permit.
Right. Right. See, this is why I want to get you guys kind of together. Yeah. I don't know if what Derek can piggyback on you, and vice versa. I just think that this is all really interesting.
You know, you don't need cops to intervene in every interaction we have in life. If I get in a car crash with somebody else, we can sue each other. We can deal it out in court if we need to, you know?
Right, yeah.
That's between us.
Well, I don't know. I've had people, well, I'm going to call the cops and said, let me take 1 second. Were you injured? Was I injured? Are you mad at me? Are you going to cause a fight? Because I'm neither and I'm not. So at this point, it's between you and I. We exchange information and we go our separate ways. The moment you call the cops, I'm done talking to you. I don't want any part of this anymore. You've created a hostile situation that is going to be possibly bad for both of us. If you don't understand that, I try to just be calm. I've had moments where people are like irate, you fucking rear-ended me, or I rear-ended you and you're pit. Like it's a car. It's an automobile that will get fixed, right?
And that was my first court case I won, was actually over a traffic ticket for failure to yield. My Trans Am, man, there was no stop sign and I was going pretty good speed. I T-boned this other car and we wrecked both our cars. They were both totaled, but we were okay. We weren't injured. I even had the guy over at my house for dinner. Like, man, I'm so sorry. Yeah. He was like, dude, thank you, because my insurance just bought me a badass ride. But we still had to go to court, right?
Yeah.
So I had to square off against the cop who wrote me the ticket, and they have the little plea bargainers come out. Oh, just take a couple points on your license, do all this shit. I'm like, I am not fucking guilty at all.
Right.
So... And back then, I probably should have pled something else, but whatever. I still want it this way. I proved that there's no stop sign there. I just moved into town. You can't see the other road intersecting, all this shit. It was just me, the judge, the cop, and I beat him.
Fantastic.
So once I got that mentality, I was like, wow, this ain't that hard.
Well, it also thinks common sense. And that's the issue where common law, common sense, common understanding, and that's where the whole slippery slope of legalese and terms and definitions we don't understand. The moment they don't define these things as common, we're using a different language. And then the more we fall into that slippery slope of using it, then we think we're correct. And I think that that's a valid point. We don't need these other people to settle these situations necessarily. And something that I heard the other day was fascinating. Somebody was watching a movie, and the king or the person that owned the land was approached by two people that said, hey, we found a dead body on your property. And the person that owned the land said, were you trespassing or poaching at the time when you found the body? And that was the only concern, because it's on his private property. Anything that happens there is nothing to other people. Just because there's a dead body doesn't mean it needs either a police or whatever. That was your business with that person that entered your property. And so if that person chose to kill you because you've trespassed, that's nobody else's business. If you want to fight on your property, that's no one else's business. That's your private land. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing, you have bodies stacking up on your property. I'm just saying that the terms that he used, or the person was saying, was the only two violations I saw was you trespassed or you're poaching on my land, which was fascinating. So it kind of looked at like how I looked at it was, you have every right to do certain things in your private property. And to your point, there's no reason to have other people intervene if you settled it,
Also, that case I was talking about with Crow that I won, and how I got it.
Your county thing?
That same prosecuting attorney and that same judge are who I'm scoring off against in the driving without a license. Like, you guys already lost.
Yeah.
You already lost.
Yeah. And
so I had my arraignment hearing. They do it on Zoom calls now.
I know, I heard that.
So that's where arraignments where you put in your plea. How am I going to plead all this shit? And I told the magistrate, I was like, I'm pleading jurisdiction. And she's like, what is that? I'm like, all right. I opened up my Black's Law 10th edition right there, and I read it verbatim to her. And she's like, all right, I'm putting you down to play for jurisdiction. Like, yep. And I'm here by special appearance even for this hearing.
Wow.
So she's like, okay. She's like, people don't normally do this.
Yeah.
You're going to whatever lose or something. I'm like, okay, I've already won before.
Well, Derek, if you need, and you can see my finger, I have the 5th and 6th edition of the Black's Law. So if you need like a little, maybe they have definitions in there. Then,
my 10th is like huge.
Is it? Oh, wow. Yeah, that's bigger than the 5th. And, yeah. So my question is that people say that after the 5th edition, they don't include some of the terms and definitions or something. Is there any drawback to getting any later editions other than they add new information? But is the old stuff pertinent to reference and then, yeah, you know what I mean? It's just...
The definitions are going to stay the same. They probably have more court cases in them. Like this gives you court cases per the definition, so you can reference it that way. So I think there's more in here.
I think the 4th edition.
This one was like $125. Not
yeah, I paid similar for the 5th and 6th, I think, somewhere. But the 4th I heard had some better definition. The actual like thesaurus definitions or more definitions for either the names or something. So I was just curious because
there's 3 pages of pleas. So when you go to court and they're like guilty or not guilty, you're like, what about I could plead innocent, I could plead mentally insane, I could plead all these other ones. There's 3 pages of fucking pleas.
Wow. Okay, hold on. You guys talk. I'm grabbing this book.
Hey, Derek, I know a few people that are challenging getting certified copies of the oath of office. Because all these officials,
I've done that.
All these officials took an oath to uphold the Constitution. They didn't take an oath to generate revenue and uphold ordinances. They took an oath on the Constitution, and so you're able to ask for a certified copy of their oath.
Yeah,
and get a copy of their oath. And their oaths, many of them. There's probably few in any county government that their oaths are in compliance.
That's right. So yeah, he's right. Plea has a whole bunch of definitions in here.
Dude.
It starts over here and it goes here, and then it has other stuff about plea. And it says we have in common law, pleading now obsolete with adoption of rules of civil procedure. A pleading, anyone in series of pleadings, more particularly the first pleading on the part of the defendant, right? But then it says affirmative plea, common pleas, criminal pleas, dilatory pleas, double plea, negative plea, false plea, peremptory pleas,
no contest,
plea in abatement, plea in bar, plea in discharge, plea in reconvention, plea of confession and avoidance, plea of guilty, plea of release, sham plea, special plea, plea agreement, plea bargaining, pleader, pleadings. Dude, yeah. Anyway, this is and I've pulled up a couple things that just blew my mind on some of these definitions because, again, if they're using the law and I can take the same definitions that they're using and reconstruct the sentences with the terms that they're using instead of going the person blah 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 section 18 referring to, let's just spell all that out and consolidate it down to one longer paragraph. Instead of what they do is they go, here's this rabbit hole, here's this rabbit hole, and if we can slowly start to aggregate them all into a clear definition, how is that wrong? And then why can't we use that? And nothing says, and this is the funny part, because when I've heard say, oh, well, can you practice law? Anybody can practice anything. And that's why doctors practice. What's the definition of is?
What's the definition of is?
And you know why he won? Because they didn't define the term of is, so he didn't know how to use it properly. And when I tried to look up is, it blew my mind. So anyway, but yeah. So again, without understanding the words and terms that they're using, you're going to babble. And any kind of babbling makes you speak nonsense, and I don't want to fall into that trap. But the more you speak in their terms, I'm sure other people are going to think we're just insane. But that's what we've fallen into.
Yep.
So I just want everybody to be on the same page. So, and I don't know how much longer both of you want to go. I can go all day, but Shawn, you said you had to go soon, and we're almost reaching an hour and a half. So I didn't plan on making it too long, but if there's anything else that we want to chit chat for another few minutes,
I can give you an update on my case.
sure, I'd like to hear a little bit. You know.
Yeah,
So
sorry to interrupt, but I'm gonna cut out,
Okay.
and then I'll have to come back and listen to Derek's last part later, because I really did want to hear this part on Derek's case. But
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
I do have to take off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Derek,
man,
really
you
nice
take
meeting
care.
you.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you.
Okay. Hey, thank you. Hey, thanks for
Absolutely.
putting this together.
Hey, this is my first attempt at kind of getting this ball rolling for myself. I behind the scenes kind of player for a long time, and I just feel like, you know, this is about time. And I'm feeling like we're about the same age, so I'm feeling like this is kind of a very important thing that I'm realizing the people around my age group and understanding are the ones kind of catching and cluing in. So I'm really appreciative of both of you just showing up. So Shawn,
Yeah.
I'll share you some stuff later, and yeah, I'll let you go.
Right on. Right on.
man.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll see ya.
Peace
Take
out.
care.
Yeah, Derek. Yeah, I just appreciate you. Like, and I said it in my chat, you know, on Facebook. It's like I'm not saying I'm scared for you. This is the type of thing that I don't normally do as a day-to-day process, right? So, the demeanor, you know, the how do I put this? Just the overall way to present this stuff. You know, I know it's probably better to write it all down just so that you're not fumbling and you get caught up, but from what you're saying is just asserting yourself and just being there and understanding as much as you need to know is probably enough in a way.
Yeah, just make sure you don't go in with just what you heard from a couple videos, because if
Yeah.
I would have done that, I would have been in jail immediately.
Right.
So I took my time. I also live right by the Capitol, which has a big law library. So I got to see all the law history of the state of Michigan, and I have, you know, access to really good stuff to use. So I took my time and bounced off what works, what was supposed to happen. So I developed my own comfort to know. I taught myself this. This is how I understand it. Now I can teach the jury. I can teach the judge.
Mhm.
Because literally they're just going off their legal training, which isn't that good.
No, and
know?
the process,
Don't-
right? Aren't they supposed to follow paperwork processes? And that's part of my understanding, right? If they give you something, then we got to fill it out and start the ball rolling. But if they kind of circumvent any of those, can't we win in default, right? Or
Mhm.
along that line?
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the judges are kind of hoping the attorneys are just going to drive the case for them. You know.
Well, they turn
And
them
they
in, right? You turn in your defendant because they
Right.
need to get the money. Because, and this is what I keep getting back to, is you had a fee to pay, a bond, because you violated the public trust in a way, and so they want to settle their debt with that, and so they have to turn you over to the state in order to get
Mhm.
that debt settled. And so what I found interesting is that there's some family member of mine going to jail and watching a television show. They don't call inmates they call them trustees.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
So we can go into that, but let's go with your case a little bit.
All right. So in the federal district, which is the first rung of federal court, it got dismissed out of there for failure to state a claim, and then I just blew up, man. I threw this huge rebuttal to it. How what they said was wrong, the judge's interpretation of my case is wrong, and all this shit, and they cited stuff improperly, and you have to seek an appeal through district first before you can go to actual appellate court.
Mhm.
So I sent it to there, and I don't even know what happened to it. I'm sure they denied it. And then I sent it up to the appellate court now. So the appellate has accepted the case. It's now going to decide whether it meets the merits of their challenging what I do. You know, because you don't really get to go in and have a jury or anything in appellate. It's just a bunch of judges that are going to say, you're right, that other court fucked up.
Well, that, you know what that sounds to me? Sounds like arbitration.
Yeah,
In a way, right? You know, you're not getting the full court system. You're not getting, like, I'm not saying the rules don't apply, but in a way that's just like I wouldn't call it a kangaroo court, but it seems like it's just avoiding the real process in a way.
Yeah, they're trying to say that because I wasn't a citizen of the state of Michigan, they acknowledged that.
Okay.
They acknowledged that, federal court did. But they said that then state of Michigan has sovereign immunity against me. And I said, sure, as long as they don't do anything to me, I can't sue them, you know?
Yeah, all right,
But as soon as you do me wrong and you violate the U.S. Constitution, I don't give a fuck about the state of Michigan's Constitution.
Yeah.
You violate the U.S. Constitution, that's immediately federal court jurisdiction. So it don't matter what I am. I still have U.S. constitutional rights.
Correct.
As a U.S. citizen.
Well, I would
and
just say
as an American national.
Well, that and it's just as a man and a human and whatever. I mean, like
even people from other countries that come visit us still get protection from our rights.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we have to apply law to them.
Right. Yeah.
So and you don't have to be a part of the system to still have the right.
Well, that's kind of what everybody's leaning on, is that they see us kind of as that project of free this and united countries, and we have open borders. So like I get it. Like that's a beacon of for a lot of people. But the thing is that each state is kind of its own country, should be able to do whatever it needs to do. And then if it needs to collectively gather the money and all that kind of stuff, I get it. Like the maintaining of all this stuff. But when they seriously are squashing on us or stepping on us just to get their money, I can't.
There's nothing the state is allowed to do that would violate the U.S. Constitution. And if you're going to sit there and wait for this, whatever state you might be in, if you're waiting for them to decide whether something violates the Constitution or not, they're not going to.
Well, I mean, would I admit wrong on some things? Not necessarily.
Right.
You try to tiptoe around it and try to point fingers at other people, but then
it's a corporation, bro. They just want to get their profits.
Well, you want to know something super interesting that I found out was that I went to the Alameda County Charter, and literally in the first sentence it says that it's a body corporate, and no, it's I'd have to read it, but it says it's a corporation and a body politic.
Yeah,
right there. And then it states that we the people established all this stuff, and when they show these things like the Constitution, it says the people and every other asshole in government.
Yeah.
What does that show? And if people don't understand that, I don't understand even the term representative. They didn't represent me in any shape or fashion. Nobody sat down with me and say, hey, I'm going to speak on your behalf.
Yeah.
And this is what I'd like to know from you.
On my appearance form, I'll cross off represent and just put present.
Yeah, right.
I present myself.
Yeah. and what's the other thing is yeah, well, so the inmate thing was interesting because they're trustees, because I was giving money to a commissary account. Turns out that that's a trust account.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to manage this trust account because they can't create a bank account. They can't create other funds because they're in control of that individual. Well, they've locked them up, so they have to become these trustees, beneficiaries.
That's interesting. I think their inmate number might be the trust account itself then.
That's something that we were trying to figure out, because at the end of the day, they have to then release the funds to those people because they can't, I mean, if they're managing it, they can't keep it. So it's a weird dichotomy, because at the end, he'd then end up being the beneficiary of that trust because they got to get the money back out of that. Like it just,
oh no, they're going to be the beneficiary because they're getting all the profit from the goods.
Well, that's great. Okay, that's
he's using it, you're setting it up, and the jail is actually making the money.
Right, correct. From whether it's,
and you see how expensive that shit is too.
Oh man. What did we buy him? Like an extra pillow and ramen and chips. I mean, I was spending like as much money as I could at one time just so that he'd have stuff. And the only concern I had was he's gonna ass beat because he's fucking rich in there at some point. But yeah,
well, I got arrested and shit. And then when I got out, I told my inmates before I got out, I was like, when I get out, I'm going to put some money on your guys' commissary because this is fucked.
It's fucked,
like,
right?
I know I'm getting out. And they're like, really? You know about law? I'm like, oh, yeah, let me teach you. And I got out. My shit got dismissed. So when I got out, I put $200 on one of their commissary accounts. And I was like,
so they could all share.
Take care, buddy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, there are things like that. Like if Shawn was saying that guy's in jail, I need to support those people. I don't want them to rot in jail. But then if they can't correct their status and get out either, I don't know what help we can be other than the money, commissary, stuff like that. But we have to find these people and start like what Crow's doing, yourself, myself, and Rob, and all the people. Let's get these people together and create the world and society that we need. And
Yeah.
as far as, are we changing all this stuff today and tomorrow? Not really, but look at what people did in the past. They got mad over taxes,
Yeah.
and it was like an insignificant amount, and we're beyond that now, and nobody's raising a finger or even a weapon at that point. So I'm happy for that, because we don't need that type of result or outcome, but we do need a fresh kind of like almost that reset again.
We need like a revolutionary spirit.
Yeah, and I think that's coming in a way.
That are willing to riot that shit that's happened. Why can't we riot about property taxes and all that shit?
I don't know, because my father would say, because it pays for the fire department.
Yeah.
You know what? If you all worked together and you had access to the fire hose that was left like an axe or a fire extinguisher, out in the open. You know what's strange is we have a fire extinguisher on the wall outside of our apartment complex for all of us to use. So if, let's say, a hose was out there presented for everyone to use so that the firefighters don't take 20 minutes to get there, you can have the people that know in the neighborhood how to just rig it up, and you put the fire out yourself. Like it doesn't require a team of people necessarily.
Right.
And I'm not all for communism, but what I'm saying is that we can work together and achieve a lot of this stuff without them. I'm not a master contractor, and I'm probably going to build something absolutely incorrectly, but that's what the training's for. I don't want a day job. I'd rather be doing some of that and making this system better for everybody in a way, But it sounds like everybody's utopia, and I'm like,
well, at least we're getting better at our court battles. If you look back, if there wasn't a whole lot going on to really challenge authority, and now it's like we're
ramping, right? I think it's
ramping up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the crazier it gets out there in society, the more you're going to see people start standing up and be like, "No, something ain't right." But hopefully, we can break it before we all get enslaved.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. That's the hard part, because I keep saying Agenda 21 and the rollout next year or whatever's coming with our lockdowns, and it blows my mind that you think that one man named Gavin Newsom can have any say at what you do with your family or where you go. He clearly stated he has no right to mandate anything. He can only advise, and he comes out like 3 weeks later and he's changed his terminology.
Same for Whitmer here, dude. The courts here in the state of Michigan ruled her shit unconstitutional since April.
Well, dude, Kevin Kiley something, he's the representative in Rockland. He sued Newsom. He won too. And it's not in the news. It's only on like fringe websites that he won and on his blog. No, they sued him because his executive powers or his emergency powers all of a sudden allowed him to change 400 different laws within the time frame. And they said, nope, stop that shit. You gotta stop. And Newsom's like, no. I need 2 more weeks to be able to put more stuff out. Like this snowball of it's just, but he's not your master.
No, man. I don't know what's going to come of this. Like, we definitely need a reform if our government can lock us down like that.
The world, though, it's not just necessarily even the communities. This happened worldwide.
Yeah.
And that's scarier more than anything. And I don't even think people can kind of grasp that in the back of their head. They're like, fantastic, China got locked up and Italy's down. Spain's.
Did you hear Biden? He said the key words of the next conspiracy theory. He said there's a dark winter coming.
Oh, man.
Look into dark winter yet?
Yes, sir. And I know about Project Zephyr and the friends of Goldberg, David Goldberg. Do you hear about him?
Yeah. So,
yeah, there's some interesting stuff. And whether you find paperwork on that, like it's difficult. You're not going to see a lot of this stuff typed up. I don't type up my plans. So a lot of this stuff wouldn't have to be typed up either, and you can collude in the Bohemian Grove up in Monterey,
right? If
that's what they said that the
kind of the Bilderberg or CFR meetings.
We can go on, dude. We can go on, and that's the problem. These are so, in a sense, abstract thoughts, but they're so real and so existing that.
And people have been talking about CFR since the 60s. I don't know if you ever heard of Myron C. Fagan.
No, we'll have to look him up later.
He used to give public speeches about the CFR and how corrupt it is and shit back in the 60s. And almost nobody knows about the CFR now.
Well, then you have the Dick Cheney come out when he was running for president. He says, "I never told anybody that I was actually running with the CFR." And then he comes out later. He's like, "I'm glad to be here," and all this stuff. And it's like, why would a Council of Foreign Relations circumvent anything that we do or be part of a steering committee for our country? It's the borderline of the United Nations, and the fact that that was actually that was a shift in name change because it was like a global world. What was it? Was another name, and I'm going to butcher this, but anyway,
League of Nations.
League of Nations, right?
UN,
yeah, right. So they progress. See, and that's the thing is like how I look at it is these corporations are shifting names or they get acquired, and those subsidiaries and all those things end up being part of the larger group and the larger corporation, and those names drop off and get consolidated into another little compartment, and people it's gone. You know, they're there in some semblance, but it's literally just been absorbed into a bigger thing, right? So
exactly.
It's fascinating, and you know, I don't even know what else to say other than I just really appreciate you taking the effort and putting yourself on the line more than some people are willing to do, and it's worth more than your freedom. If anything, it's everybody.
Yeah.
And I think
left the military
2
years prior to retiring.
Okay.
So that I could do this shit, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
And everybody, even my military buddies, are like, "Why the hell did you leave?" I'm like, "I'm not serving the U.S. Constitution by being in the Army.
Right.
I'm doing it now."
Yeah. And I've asked a couple. Again, I don't like naming names, but someone else I know in family was also in the Army, I believe, and he doesn't talk about being in Iraq. But the thing is like, I need to know those things. I want to know those things, and you hiding that stuff doesn't make it better. It's in a way you're facilitating the system. You're help aiding it by not exposing or talking about just the things you did. I don't, you know, it may be traumatic that you shot somebody. I get it, but why did you shoot them?
I know. I was a part of the Zionism conspiracy. The thing I fucking hate. I was a part of.
Right.
And I recognize that now, and now I'm trying to teach everybody else. I just dropped my Templars video today.
I didn't mean, I haven't watched that, but then I watched your previous one, you know, and it's there.
I'm going to show how everything's connected. It's going to be like a triangle, and it's going to flip around, and it'll show you the way things are set up as far as I've found out.
I advise you to look up a product called The Brain. I think it's 10. And it's like a mind mapping tool, and I've been using it. And actually, let's just take a moment because this will be interesting. I'm gonna share my screen real quick and show all my whatever I'm doing. So after a while, I got kind of fed up with not having like a repo for a whole bunch of stuff, and I found this app which was great that allowed me to create a center point. And then I listed all the people in the Bilderberg group, or I was going to do one on the Bohemian Grove. Let's see if I have another one. Oop. Yeah, whatever.
It's got like different templates and stuff that you can use.
Yeah, some things you have to pay for, but ideally I'm just going kind of the simple form of, I like the idea of you have a head to this Hydra. And when you click into somebody, then you create like, okay, they run X business. Right.
Oh, okay.
Right. And then so that business then becomes grouped under them, and any leadership or CEO position, I look under that. And then let's see, I'll remove that later. So let's see if I can even pull up somebody that was in here. So let's see, I tried to then say he's part of the Evercore, and I go to Evercore, and then I was literally trying to do this, and it is so time consuming.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it just shows though, just from the one group, you can list military, banking, government, etc. Even if it says it's retired, even if it says they are no longer part of the USAA government, whatever, they're still talking about stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So I only do this because it helped me kind of see a bigger picture in a nice, organized way. I'm not saying it's 100% the best way, but I liked it, and I wanted to give it a try. So that's kind of what I was
definitely going to check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't need to share anymore. But that's really just one of those things where
Yeah,
I
because
don't
I'm
want
getting
to.
used to all my Adobe programs, man. They're
If you
fucking.
want help,
Whew.
I can do Photoshop. I can do Premiere. I was
Oh yeah.
taught in multimedia stuff. So if you need help with
No.
Photoshop, I got it. I know After Effects. I'm forgetting it because I don't do video stuff all the time. But if you get a couple tutorials for After Effects, it's a magic. That stuff is amazing.
Well,
I don't
I
look at
have all
television
the
again.
Adobe programs. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
paying the subscription for them, so
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I got Premiere. I'm pretty good with Premiere. Like, I can do the basic stuff, you
Yep,
know.
yep.
And then Photoshop, I used to be really good at, but I forgot it all because I stopped using it for years,
Yeah.
you know. And
Well,
After Effects, I've used a little bit. You know, on my video where I have the full Crow episode and I have that equalizer thing,
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
made that.
Okay.
So out of After Effects, yeah.
Yeah. So like all the After Effects stuff is a. I mean, again, it's a learning curve that you just can't imagine. But
Yeah.
if you start with Photoshop and you understand Photoshop layering and all that kind of stuff, you
Yep.
can bring a PSD file into After Effects because of the cohesive platform that they've created.
Mhm.
And you can break out each layer and animate all sorts of stuff. That's why I was going to say I don't look at television the same anymore because I understand all this stuff is digitally created. It's all mostly illusion.
Yeah.
If you can take a
Especially with
look
the
at,
deep fake shit now
oh
going
man, have
on.
you
Like,
seen
oh
that?
man.
Oh, did you watch the one about Step Brothers with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes!
Oh my!
That one's amazing.
The only thing that bothered me was that Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think it was, didn't really have any emotion to it. He's like, "Yeah," and his face
Yeah.
kind of stayed the same. But the realism, the reality that could come from this
Yeah.
is just
Like they
alarming.
could have done a whole movie like that. I would rewatch the whole movie like that, dude.
Yeah, exactly. But that to me snowballs back into when I was in school, I learned what's called the Avid system, AVID, and it was one of the top editing softwares. And it was like beyond some of the technology at the time. Let's see, what was that? It was in 2000. So when 9/11 happened and people talked about the nose out of the
Mhm.
building, I went, live video editing. Absolutely. I can see how people would believe there's no, or think there'd be no airplanes. I can
Yeah.
see how they could digitally enhance and add this stuff. I can
Right.
absolutely see the interception of a lifetime video published out to the real world 7 minutes late, 5 minutes later, 30 seconds later, and insert any goddamn thing you want. So I can't trust digital television anymore.
Mhm.
Analog systems were difficult because you had to break the video down into chunks. So you actually had to destroy a tape in a way to get those
Yeah.
spliced in pieces. Now they have non-destructive editing, which is what Premiere is. You just
Right.
drop stuff on top in and out of all these
You could
layers
just
and it's
chop
fun.
little pieces out, not the whole thing.
Right.
Right. Like you could take a layer off and
Yes.
still have the picture. Right.
But imagine when you had to go analog. I mean, I used to do it with magnetic tapes, like old cassettes back in the day. And I figured out you break one and you have a little bit of, like, let's say it came out and it unfurled. I would cut it. I'd put a piece of tape on there. Yeah, it would screw up that audio for that split second, but it fixed it. So any analog systems, you couldn't really splice in things easy. You know, you're not going to do stuff certain in lifetime. So when they introduced the digital system and switched it over to, I went, wow, you're never going to believe your eyes anymore.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a lot of fakery going on. The computing power, the digital space is all going to get ramped up. And something that people brought up recently that blows my mind was that it feels like there is an AI system and it's trying to manifest itself in the real world.
Yeah.
And it's
almost like that movie Transcendence, right?
I think it. Yeah, I
With
don't
Johnny
think.
Depp.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. He talks to the AI bot, right? Or he tries to.
He creates the
He
program,
creates
then
some
he dies and goes into the program itself.
Yeah, I
Kinda
thought
like
he tried
Ghost
to
in the
save his
Machine.
wife or something, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
that's if you're talking science fiction and you have Elon Musk trying to put nodes in your brain and tap you
Mhm.
into a robot. What are
Yeah.
you at that point? And then you put animal tissue and other things. You're a chimeric entity, a being that's an animal that you're no longer a human. So these laws don't apply to you because you're not a person or a natural human.
Right.
Right? You're
Yeah.
a chimera of DNA of other people, DNA of animals, DNA and cells of other creatures. What are you? You're no longer human, in my
I
opinion.
wonder if
That's
that'll
why.
become a thing. You can live forever, but you won't have your rights anymore.
That's what they were talking about. I don't know if you heard that. I mean, that's so on point with another show I was listening to.
Man.
I believe that these laws, when they started saying that drug laws were animals, I don't remember, and I butcher this stuff. This is why I want to make it informal. Is that I grasp these things and I get the small, bits of minutia, but there's so much more to it. But that they use the terminology to apply it to animals, and the more we take these systems, I believe that they're right. We are no longer what we are, and so that the laws can govern the chattel, the things that they have control over.
Right.
Right? Because
Especially if they provide you a body, then they could own it.
well, your vessel, right?
Yep.
And that all those terminologies, again, you're a vessel moving through time and space in these relationships, citizenships. To me, that seems maritime, and the birth in a canal in the waters of the Sea of Mother. I mean,
We could go
I don't know,
on and
man. On and on. So I don't know. I don't want to keep you.
Jordan Maxwell, right? He's the one that pointed all that out. Yeah.
And I like William Cooper. I like.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a guy? Oh shit.
He called out the Freemasons too. That's probably why he got fucking taken out.
Yeah, man. I mean, his story is heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking at the end. But that's the type of sacrifice I think he was prepared for and understood. And then at the same time, there was another guy I was trying to remember. He was a military haircut, white hair. He was an engineer. He was talking about underwater bases or underground bases. I don't know.
Oh,
he had his fingers zapped
I don't know
off.
the name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I kind of lost my point, but still there. And just the fact that there are things that we just can't even comprehend happening. Underground bases, underwater bases, the military having redundancy, and the government having its own redundancy. They don't want to lose control, and I feel like they're poking a bear called the United States or the people. And in a way, they're testing the waters, and I think they're winning. And I think a few of us are Neo, and we're trying to. We're in the system.
By making us more divided, and with our ideas and stuff. And they're doing that through the media. So if people just shut off their TVs and radios and just start talking on, even on YouTube, at least you can talk to people who might be like-minded.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. You're still going to get people coming in, trashing you and shit, but that comes with the nature,
I think that's the reality of everyday life at this point. That we're going to have haters. We're going to have people that are mad. We're going to have people that are mad at themselves because they're afraid to do some things that we're doing. I got to say I'm afraid, and I've not done it, but I don't want to be that way anymore. And I don't think that that's a valid state to live in. And the fact that other people are afraid, why would that reflect on me? Why would your energy require my energy? I don't know. It's just there. And I've said the same thing to my parents. Why are you afraid?
Yeah.
Well, Fox News, people are dying in New York. Do you know that my girlfriend works in the ERs? Two of them. There are no bodies stacking up. They forcibly reduced the size of the hospital, let's say they cut by 30% and made it for COVID. Yeah. That didn't get filled up. That 30% of the hospital never got filled up. But all of a sudden we have to worry about a second wave, so they moved it to 80% of the hospitals all COVID. That still never got filled up. What happened?
Right.
They furloughed the nurses. They laid them off. They let on-call people not come in. The fact that you could drive to the hospital, and I did it, I filmed it. If you want to call me bullshit, there was nobody there at the hospitals in the first wave.
That's why all the state governors wanted emergency relief from the federal government, so they declared state of emergencies, and then they could kick out their little pieces of it to the hospitals,
right? Whatever.
Saying, "Oh my God, we're overrun. We need that money. 4,000 for ventilators. Put them on." That's what's killing everybody.
It was like 13,000 for the ventilator, $40,000 for the death on the certificate or something like that. And then I went back and I showed back in March, they did Alert 1, Alert 2, and Alert 3. From the CDC with the National Vital Statistics Program. And they stated dude, you know what? I got to share this again because this is what drives me nuts. Yeah. I read this and I said, this doesn't make sense. So you go to Alert 1, PDF CDC. Common sense would dictate It is important to emphasize that coronavirus disease or COVID-19 should be reported on the death certificate for all decedents where the disease caused or is assumed to have caused or contributed to the death. What the fuck does assumed mean? Let's do this. So we're going to go up.
Hey,
Assume.
can you send that to me also?
Dude, there's another one. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Right? Ready? To take upon oneself to pretend, right? Any of this stuff that assumption means without proof.
They'll make an ass out of you and me, right?
Well, they're making an ass of everybody because if you can assume something and not prove it, what happens? It's now all of a sudden it's real for these people. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Alert 2, PDF. I've got these bookmarked because you go through. This is the most scary thing right here. They bolded the damn thing. Assume to have caused. That's inflation of a number right there.
Yeah, they had to make sure the doctors know, hey, even if it's not, label it.
Well, this is the labeling right here. So a supposed legitimate death, or the conclusion is that they died purely of COVID, would be this U07.1. So we should be able to go back to all these records and show U071 on all these deaths. If they come up with U072, they assumed it was COVID.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I mean, you can never say somebody died of COVID anyways because we never isolated the virus.
That's what they were saying. There's no gold standard.
Killed anybody.
Right. So I'm paying, dude, I was being a dick to my friends the other day. And I was like, find the person that's got it. I'll pay them $1,000 to sit with them in the room with them. Let's get this shit. Let's get this shit and get it over with, you know?
Those PCR tests that they're using everywhere, the swabs,
that
the designer that made that test died right before coronavirus kicked off. And he said it's not supposed to be used to verify if somebody's infected with anything.
It's not a diagnostic tool.
Yes, exactly. And
everybody's
using it.
Yes, and so it's a polymerase chain reaction or something. So they fold the information that they get. So you get one sample, and you double that. Then they quadruple that. Then they take it to 16. They could say 37 times is the maximum folds, which gives them a result. If they fold it 40 times, it's a guaranteed 100% result of whatever they want. And so how many times? And look, you could do this yourself. PCR tests are not supposed to be used as a diagnostic tool. You want to know what the etymology of diagnosis is? This is just kind of fun to me. Di meaning two, a meaning without, gnosis knowledge. Two without knowledge. If that's correct, that just blows my mind.
Wow.
So you have dia, right? And then the recognition of disease, that's their definition. But I was reading and all this stuff. So, I mean, it's like one of those things. You take it absolute. And for what it is, as you break these things down, it's hard to say. But,
that's so crazy. I didn't know that.
Die word forming element through in different directions between, also merely intensive, thoroughly, entirely. Well, it with a base of sense of twice. Interesting stuff, So I listened to Mark Passio break up a few of those words, and I think that the key thing that I like to reemphasize is ignorance. Not necessarily ignorance; it's ignorance, ignoring things in front of you. That's
I think too, like when people have, they say, I'm educated, I went to high school, I went to college. It's like, if you didn't go there and experiment yourself and come up with it yourself, you didn't learn anything. You just repeat.
You read something and
you're just memorizing. That's all you're doing.
That's right. That's right.
And you know that when you actually experience something, you actually retain that way better than just reading a book.
Well, that's why I give you credit. You've done a few things that have actually either proven success or even had failure to. And the learning curve of that is important because you're doing it versus someone telling me what they did or telling me what to do. And it only comes from experience. And so
I've had attorneys try to correct me. I'm like, you're wrong, dude. You're stating stuff that's incomprehensive. You're just repeating what somebody else told you that law is.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And that's the problem with a lot of other people is that I asked a couple doctor friends, what's in the ingredients in a vaccine?
Mm-hmm.
And the moment someone can't tell me MRC5, aluminum salts, formaldehyde, they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Right.
Right? And so I read the CDC's website. I looked up specifically vaccine ingredients. And if anybody can do it and get those legitimate sources again, how am I?
And like the bovine genetic shit stuff from other animals.
Well, consider this.
even
This is the
human.
chimeric thing I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If you, okay, so take a step back now. My office employs a lot of Indian people. What's against their religion? Consuming cow.
Yeah. Hoofed
So
animals, right?
If they are injected with cow serum, that violates their religion, and government can't violate your religious beliefs.
Right.
And if you can't stand on that violation or that belief, and they're allowed to violate you, again, what are you? You're that cattle. You're that chattel. They murdered another animal to put something into you that God knows what's going to do to you.
Yeah.
And you deserve that outcome, in my opinion, at that point.
Yeah.
But
when
Noah, you were
the
vaccinated. You know,
when you trust the government, man, you're going to get exactly what you deserve.
I feel it. That's a great note to end it on. Yeah.
That's like, yeah. Just tell McDonald's, like, I want to eat healthy. I trust you. You're providing me with healthy food, and go eat there.
Okay, wait. Let's take one step back on that one. Do you remember when McDonald's introduced salads?
Yeah.
Everybody lost their fucking minds. Okay. Then it turns out it wasn't the salad that was a problem. It was the 12,000 calories in the dressing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so you believed they were there to do something for your benefit, and yet what they did was they hid something from you. You should be fucking pissed, and you should never patronize them again or provide them any attention at all.
Right.
You know, and they lure you in with this messaging or the illusion. So what I feel like is the analogy of the Wizard of Oz was so poignant was that there are people behind a curtain, and that's not a lie. That's not a story.
Yeah.
You know, there may not be a physical curtain, but as I look at it now, it's a corporate veil.
Veil. Yep.
And man, the more I talk about this, the more and again, through experience, the more you're able to take this in as your own, the easier it is to decipher, disseminate, and discuss with other people. So you don't sound like a complete freak, and you know, I may not be able to point all those things in the right direction. I may get the name wrong, but I'm saying let's get past my message or how I delivered it, and let's look at the message, and let's look at, okay, the last name was spelled incorrectly, the name was wrong. Let's get beyond that. We can find that information, you know. So let's just try to work together and say, let's just try to understand this together. And when I hear the people say ignorance of the law is no excuse, are you fucking kidding me? So you read all of them.
All the law? You're going to learn all the law? Okay.
All the law, right. All the law.
There's no such thing as the law. There's so many different laws, you know?
If you can't read this, and 7 to 10 of them now, there's probably, 12 volumes of it? And then
hope you know Latin.
It's a dead language, Derek.
Yeah.
Didn't you know that?
Right.
Doesn't that make people...
For the corporations, they need a dead language, right?
Why? That's what people... Dude, Derek, you're going to make me go crazy because I try to bring this up to people and they're, you know, so, but man, all right. I think this is fantastic. I don't know where else to end it, but other than that, yeah, I think we're living in a pretty big lie. I think that starting to see ourselves out of it. I think that we have some good, I don't know how to call it, standing. I think there are some, how do I put, springboards, jumping off points that people, we need to I'm not presenting any of those today. What I'm saying is that we have those people that know, so let's try to wrangle them in a little bit. Let's hope that some people can finish their processes and get the time to teach all of us, because I know there are a few out there that, like Lena and Kurt and all those people, they all deserve our praise, our time, our energy to support them, and yourself. If anybody wants to go back, please find Derek on his Facebook. Please find me, anybody else in Transparent Media Truth. And if Derek's going to make a website here soon, or his channel, which please
Walk as Kings. I have .com and .info, both domains. I got to finish publishing the websites, but yeah, I wanted to get a couple main videos down like I have now.
Absolutely. So. And just for your record, and just so I'm putting it on record, you need anything I won't charge you anything. I just want you to get your shit out there. You want any information on all that stuff, how to get it, whatever, just hit me up. All right, because I do this for my day job. I get paid. At least I have a job, so I'm just trying to take my time and let's donate this stuff to the people that need it, because I don't expect you to fork out all this time and money. If I know
all my videos are free. I
Yeah.
don't charge for that. I am going to set up like a Patreon and something that people can donate to or whatever. But yeah, it's I invest hundreds to thousands of dollars into what I do, and
I do too.
It takes a lot out of you, man. Time, frustration. But
family, friends.
The work is worth it when you hear people really appreciate, hey, you're onto this. Holy shit, you know, and you kind of feel the drive too, because you're like, there's not many people out there looking into this shit.
Right.
So we kind of have to do it, or else nobody's going to.
Well, you know what? I'm kind of at the point where I've been behind the scenes, yet I've been I would call it a closeted activist in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I got to give up. I want to be the spearhead now. I want to be part of your tip of that spear. I will support you as much as possible.
Hell yeah, man.
You know, so to all the people out there that sees this, if it's on my own channel, not Transparent Media Truth's website or channel, so be it. I just want to put this out there. Derek is doing some great work. And your website again, one more time.
walkiskings.com or .info.
Great. And there you go. And Derek, I just got to say thank you for your time. Thank you for everything. And I just look forward to all the information you may put out, all that other stuff. Oh, and just for your record, my websites are thewestwindproject.com, and I started another one called exposethegrove.com, and I actually bought thebohemiangrove.com, and I redirected to darkdocs.com. And I have another one called skywatchmap.org because I thought the chemtrail stuff was a interesting subject. And
I want to get into that too. I want to actually do like chemtrail hunting. I want to go out with a laptop, show what is transponding on the radar and shit. Be like, that plane is not one of them.
Okay, let's delay this another minute. So I go onto Flight Radar 24, which uses the ADS systems, which for myself, I live near SFO, Oakland, Hayward, and Livermore airports. So the data, I don't require putting a transponder in my area. I already have that data live time. It may be a couple minutes behind, but I can see everything flying over me. And there have been a few that don't show up, but I'm finding the ones that do leave the massive trails are flying to China or back from China.
Wow.
Super weird. Super weird. So I'm not saying, and look, this is not 100% definitive proof. This is my opinion. What is coming out of those planes to me is just pure garbage. I don't like my skies looking that way. That's it.
Yeah.
So if it's for nefarious things and other shit, I don't know. But my point is, it's fucking pollution, and it's atrocious just the way it looks.
Yeah, if it's just to guide weather, it's not doing a good job. It's poisoning all of us for that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But if they can augment the snow in Tahoe, I don't see how they can do it on a larger scale with a giant fucking plane. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's another topic. I'll be happy to do another show on anything. So
hell yeah.
I just want to wish you a happy day. Good day.
You too, man.
Thank you.
You take care.
I really appreciate it. See you, Derek.
See ya.